Hey, good evening, everybody. John Harris here from Farm Journal, along with Chip Flory from AgriTalk. And Chip, we're just minutes away from the first big batch of numbers coming in from this election night.
Yeah, and some of the very preliminary numbers are already starting to come in. So we can kind of start to feel the momentum build to what is going to be an exciting night for the country as we decide who is going to not only be the leader of the country for the next 4 years, but boy, John, and we've talked about this on AgriTalk, but that Senate race, I think the race for control of the Senate is the dominant story for tonight.
Yeah, it is indeed, particularly if Joe Biden wins the presidency, which we may or may not know tonight, but certainly control of the Senate certainly has a big hand in what the future flavor of government is going to be. Absolutely. And just how much a Democratic Party can accomplish in a coming administration. But Chip, we wanted to hop on here and tease a little bit that when these results start coming in, we're going to be doing some live streaming coming up at 9 o'clock Central tonight, 10 p.m. Eastern. It's going to be you and me and some other big hitters, starting with Jim Wiesemeyer.
Yes, absolutely. Pro Farmer Policy Analyst. Wiesemeyer's been out in D.C. for more than 40 years. I don't trust anybody more than I trust Jim when it comes to trying to figure out what the results of today's election will mean for agriculture going forward.
Yeah, and that's a key to what we're going to be doing tonight at 10 Eastern, 9 Central, is a very ag-centric look at what we know about the election at that point. So not just what's happening in the presidential race and how that may influence agriculture, but also looking at some of the key races. Obviously, Colin Peterson up in Minnesota, the race in Kansas to replace Pat Roberts, who's a longtime chairman of the Senate Agriculture Committee. Obviously, they're in Iowa with you, Chip, and the Joni Ernst race, which is going to be key. So a lot of things to watch. Proposition 15 out in California, although we'll just be getting some results on that by the time we wrap up. We'll still take a look at it. So a lot of very ag-focused discussion and analysis tonight. And not just with, not just you, not just Jim Wiesemeyer. We've also got Tyson Redpath.
Tyson Redpath from the Russell Group. Man, to have him make time to be part of the conversation tonight, I think it's absolutely outstanding. And we've got Tommy Grisafi coming on as well.
Getting the market perspective from Tommy and how the markets might be reacting to the news that we get tonight. And our crazy Canadian may check in too.
Yeah, I kind of wondered if he would or not. I'll bet he'll be watching for the results. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm shocked about that. And if you go to agweb.com and look at some of our election commentary, we're going to have tweet updates from all of us through the evening. And Sean and I have already had a bit of a discussion on there about the Canadian interest in this election cycle. And I'm amazed that those in Canada are as involved, as interested, and tracking as closely this presidential election here in the United States. Almost makes me embarrassed that we don't follow Canadian politics hardly at all.
Well, Scott Shellady, the cow guy, was on the first hour of AgriTalk this morning. And I asked him about, he has lived in Europe. He's lived in London for 15, 16 years. I asked him how Europeans will be watching this, and he said very closely. There's no doubt that they will be watching what happens in the United States very closely, because it's going to be an indicator of the tone that will be set for the world coming from the United States.
Well, and it just speaks to how influential our economy is on the rest of the globe. Yeah. So we will follow that and get some Canadian perspective possibly tonight as well. What are you hearing there in Iowa, Chip? Well, first of all, I voted a few weeks ago, had to wait 3.5 hours in line to do it. What was your experience when you voted in person today?
Yeah, it was no problem. I was there when the poll opened at 7 o'clock. Actually, I was there probably about 20 to 7, sat in the truck and watched with a few others that were waiting in their vehicles to figure out exactly when we were going to go and stand in line.
And who's going to jump to be first?
Yeah, right. By the time I made my move, I ended up about 8th in line. And the only thing that slowed me down was the verification process before we went through. I think in my small precinct, I think I filled up the last booth space, and we were starting to turn the tables or turn the booths pretty quickly there by the time I left. But I will tell you this: when I left, shortly, we'll call it 7:15 this morning, the line had grown to about 30, 40 people. So there was very much an interest in person voting that I could see.
And fortunately, really not many reports of any electoral problems through this election day today, other than a couple of states with some troubling robocalls urging people to not vote today. But other than that, it seemed for the most part things were moving along smoothly.
Yeah, there were a couple of areas that did see some delays in the polling early. I believe it was North Carolina, and North Carolina is maybe it was Georgia. I'm not exactly sure.
It was North Carolina, yeah, and they're going to stay open a little bit late to make up for it, yeah.
Right. And that's usually one of the first states that we start to see some results from, John. So those results are going to be a little delayed because they are going to keep the polls open later, which absolutely the right decision there, in my opinion.
Yeah, and of course, one of the keys tonight is going to be how ahead of the game the states dealing with early voting ballots, whether they got at it today or going to wait till tonight or even tomorrow morning to start counting those early voting and absentee ballots.
Yeah, and obviously, when you've got, what was it when the day started, 97 million that had voted early, John? When you've got that many that voted early, the exit polls are unreliable. Don't get too locked into any position in some key states, including Pennsylvania. Don't get locked into the results that we're seeing tonight until we get those early votes counted and included. Texas is another huge state, John, that I think they're going to get those votes counted on a timely basis in Texas. I know they are in Arizona. Florida, they've got a plan. It's kind of still up in the air for Texas whether or not we're going to see all the results tonight.
Yeah, there are some signs that Florida really learned their lesson from 2000. They seem to be fairly organized in getting those early votes counted, maybe more organized than some other states. So here's hoping that we'll maybe not see Florida languish well into the next days like we did in 2000.
Yeah, I think, the hanging Chad gave Florida a bad rap, and rightfully so in 2000. Yes. The process that they have streamlined now, they're one of the earliest, most reliable vote counters there is now.
Yeah, and let's hope we see that develop later on tonight, because Florida is going to be a big key. Florida, if it's declared early, will give you a very clear indication of how the rest of the night's going to go.
I know Jim likes to talk about watching some key counties even to see how they vote and how the trends are moving, not only through the night, but compared to previous elections. And I tell you, watching that South Florida vote, I think is going to be very, very interesting this year. The Miami-Dade, Broward counties, I believe those are Florida districts 22 and 23 are the districts that are going to tell us a lot about how South Florida is going to go in the future.
Indeed. Well, we're just a few minutes away, so we will start looking and crunching the numbers. Watch agweb.com for some of our running commentary through the night. And then again, 9 p.m. Central, 10 p.m. Eastern, we will be back here with Jim Wiesmeyer, Tyson Redpath, Tommy Grisafi, maybe Sean Haney, maybe others, breaking this down again with a focus on the impact on agriculture. So talk to you then, Chip.
All right, John. Sounds good.
All right, and we'll be looking for you then for our special coverage from DC Signal to Noise and AgriTalk.